There is only one perfect solution, but there are clues that will try to trick our team.
Hello there everyone, my name is Crazy Caleb, and welcome to Inverse. So this is the way the module looks. It's got a drawing on it, it's got a series of different buttons down at the bottom, and otherwise on the left here, and this is the way the module looks. So this is what we're going to be doing here. So within this module, what this module wants you to do is it wants you to find the inverse of an answer, essentially. This is going to be what we're looking at here. Step error I've never had actually occur, and it is a very rare case for this to actually happen. I don't think it does appear. But the way that you'll know that error appears is going to be taking a look at these images here. You'll either get a number, in this case we're looking at a 1 here, or you'll get two errors, in this case representing here or here. The error is pretty straightforward. You press otherwise when it specifically is when the 1 second digit on the timer is equal to the amount of batteries, or when it's equal to the amount of strikes, in this case. That's pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. I haven't had those happen, and I'm not sure why they would happen. So yeah, that's what we're looking at here. But for now, we're going to take a look at the number 1. So in this case, symbol to number is 1. Now, we're going to unmodify with the inverse. We're going to take the number and use the bullet points below. However, the bullet points tell you how the number was modified. So you must invert the instructions to unmodify the number. I had to take a minute to read that there. Remember that the number is the widget count, not the display num. Find the first statement that applies. So what this essentially is asking us to do is we're trying to find a widget count in this instance. We're trying to find a widget count, and we're trying to make it equal, when it plugged into one of these formulas here, the number that we get in the display. This is essentially what's happening here. And I'm not going to focus on this example because I want to focus on one of the other ones here. So this first number that we get here is 9. What we want to do is we want to find a number that gets us 9 based off of these formulas below. So if we take a look here, if the number is between 3 and 5 inclusive, and note you're going to find the first statement that applies. If the number is between 3 and 5 inclusively, the module has been multiplied by 2 and added to 1. So the way that you want to do the inverse of this all is you're essentially going to be taking a look at what gets us to 9, essentially. And one of the things that might come to mind immediately is if we plug in 4, for example, 4 would take the module multiply the number by 2, in this case 8. And then we add 1 to this, in this case that will give us a 9. And that is going to give us our answer for what's on the display. So essentially what we're going to be doing here is we're trying to find a number that represents our edge work, represents a widget count in this instance. And if we plug in 4, for example, that's going to represent our widget count in this instance. So we're doing reverse work to get to the 9 by simply plugging in a widget count that plugs into one of these formulas below. And if that widget count, that number is equal to the number that is represented by the image, that is going to be the number that is going to be representing the widget count. Now, since we found our answer, in this case it was 4, we're going to take a look at the solving method for this. Now that you've found the originating number, there will be widgets that have this amount. So we need to figure out between ports, port plates, batteries, battery holders, on-lit indicators, or lit indicators, which widget count of these 6 has a value of 4. And if there are multiple correct corresponding buttons that should work, just press one of them. It doesn't really matter. So let's take a look at our edge work here, and let's see what works for us. And in this instance, immediately what I can see here is we have 4 different port types. So we're going to be able to press ports. Just like that is a solved module. So now, with the cases of, for example, 1 right here, 1 is simply not going to be modified. In this case, if the number is 0, 1, or 2, it is not modified. So in this case, we happen to have the number of 1. It's not going to be modified in any way, shape, or form. So the number that you get in the display is the number that you will get for your answer. So we're going to try and find we're going to try and find a widget that has a value of 1. And in this case, we can associate this with the lit FRK. So the lit indicator, there's only one lit indicator on the BOM, therefore we can press this button. And finally, for this last one here, we have a Venn diagram here. It's going to be a 2. And this one, excuse me for a second, represents 2. 2 is not going to be modified here, and it is going to be essentially what we're going to do is we're going to find one that has 2. And in this case, batteries is the one that immediately comes to mind. So we're going to be able to press batteries. And just like that is a solved module. It's a bit of a weird mod to do. Just remember, what you're trying to do is you're trying to equal the number in the from this actual symbol. And then what you're trying to do is you're trying to plug in each of these numbers and make sure that there is actually one that works. And most of the time you can actually just do this math in your head. But you're trying to figure out a number that is equal to the display. And you can actually kind of just plot this out in a way that you can kind of just work it out. So for example, 3 would be equal to 3 times 2, which is equal to 7. 3 times 2 is equal to 6, plus 1 is 7. 4 is equal to 4 times 2, which is 8, plus 1 is 9. 5 is equal to 5 times 2 plus 1 is equal to 11. So essentially you can sort of plan those out in case you ever happen to get one of those numbers. That's kind of the way that things are going to work here. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.